Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete and certified high performance coach. And we have a special guest today. Somebody that has got a story and got a message, and we want to share it with you on this podcast. So, Alex, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Hey, yeah, my name is Alex. Basically, my team and I, we wash people's homes, clean their windows, their houses, take mold off, algae, clean gutters. So that's pretty much what we do.
Awesome. How did you get in the business? It's a unique business, it's a service business. What was your journey like?
It is a very unique business. I think what inspires me most is helping people. And, when you see happy faces after people's windows are clean and they're all so excited, I think I found that very inspirational. So that's kind of what inspired me. I was always about the service industry, and this was just one of the branches.
Yeah, I love it. I was reading about you and doing some research before the podcast. I want you to talk to our viewers about the benefits of a clean house and windows because you got mold, you got mildew, you have a lot of things that deteriorate an asset like a house. Share with our viewers what you see as that benefit of protecting that asset.
Yeah. So, of course, cleaning your house prolongs its life because if you just have mold and moss and algae growing all over, it could start eating up at the paint, at the wood. The surfaces can be slippery if you come out in your sidewalk and your driveway is moldy, your kids run around bare feet, bring that all into the house. So when we clean that, we disinfect the area, which is much better for the health. But
Mhm.
it's also much better for people's psychological health because there are studies that show when somebody's home is cleaner, a person feels happier, they feel more in control, they feel more relaxed. So I think by helping people clean their homes, we actually improve their lives, their psychological and emotional lives.
I love it. I never thought of it until I was reading about you. The roof. I never thought that there was an advantage to keeping the roof clean. Could you share with our viewers what that means to have that clean roof and what it can do for their investment?
Yeah, absolutely. So besides the obvious fact that dirty roof with dark moldy stains running down is just very unpleasant to look at, it could actually take away from all the aesthetic view of the home, even though your house is very pretty. But it's also not good for your shingles because moss starts growing and mold eats away at things and just destroys the molecular levels of shingles and the glue that holds it all together. So, interestingly enough, um, a lot of insurance companies they actually use satellite imaging now, and they look at people's homes, and if they have moldy streaks on the roofs, they send them a letter that you have to get your roof washed, or else we won't cover your roof. And then they
Hmm.
end up calling us. So even insurance companies understand that you have to take care of your roof because if you don't, they don't want to be held liable and responsible for it since the person just didn't really care what was going on with it. So that's one of the benefits. I know it's one of the less known things about washing a roof, but in the long run, it does pay off. So
Yeah, that it was a surprise to me when I was reading about that. It just never dawned on me. I always thought, pressure washing asphalt, cleaning the windows, the house, it always made it look much better. Talk to our viewers about, I know you guys do something different than what I have been exposed to, is kind of that soft spray. I mean, power washing can cause some paint damage and some different things. Y'all do a different process. Would you share that with our viewers?
yeah, absolutely. So whenever we wash a roof or a house, we only use the soft wash method because pressure it could destroy way too many things. You could break seals, you could chip paint, destroy wood. So we always try to avoid pressure as much as we can. Even if we're doing concrete, we keep it on the lower side of the pressure to avoid edging any concrete, because some concrete material is a lot softer than others.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, for house washing, we only use a soft wash, which technically is a um, mix of light soap solution and hypochlorite solution.
Hmm.
Basically, what that does is it kills mold, algae, fungus. It disinfects your home. If you have cobwebs, wasp nests, they all come off the house too. So that's the safest method to go around. Some people are sometimes concerned about their plants, but we're always very cautious. We never had anyone complain about their plants, because what we do is we water down the plants very thoroughly so they absorb as much water into them as they can. Then when we wash the house, even if some overspray gets on the flowers or the plants, we rinse them off again.
Hmm.
So we never have people complain about them. And there are a lot of things that could go wrong when you're washing a house. So you don't want just any person off the street washing your house. I mean, something simple as just people get the idea, let me go ahead and put a tarp over my flowers or over my AC unit. By the time they're done washing, the roses are dead, because they absorb so much heat and sunlight under. It's like a green room
Hmm.
under the tarp, and they got no air to breathe. Same thing with AC. The AC starts sucking up air and blowing it out, and it can't because there's a tarp over it. So there are just a lot of things that could go wrong, and that's why it's very important to have professional people washing your house.
Yeah, I believe wholeheartedly and let the professionals do their job. I love the name Sunshine. What was the story behind the name of your business?
Yeah, so for some time I lived out in Florida, and in Florida, the Sunshine State, they actually have so many companies that are named Sunshine. Sunshine Cleaning, Sunshine Car Wash, Sunshine um, Window Washing, and I was very inspired because it's such a bright name. So when I moved up in Florida, my first thought was you know, when I moved up to Georgia, my first thought was I want my company to be Sunshine, because it was so inspirational, and I think it kind of speaks for itself.
Hmm.
It brightens up your life, brightens up your house. So that was pretty much my inspiration for going with Sunshine.
I love it. I love that name, and that thought behind it just kind of helps for people like naming businesses. I think it's critical that we name our business and think through it. Sometimes you see ABC car wash or ABC because they're still thinking about the yellow pages and I have to have an A in something. But I love
Yeah,
good names that people can remember, simple. What would
yeah.
you say as a business owner is your biggest challenge as we're moving into AI, we're moving into technology, and the world seems to be getting faster?
Well, I think the service industry will probably be impacted the last, because it's very hard to imagine a robot climbing a roof and cleaning out the gutters, or climbing around bushes to get to your windows and clean them. Um, Maybe it will happen down the future, but usually that's probably not something I'm too worried about at the moment. I think what the more difficult challenge is of finding good talent,
Hmm,
because you don't want only skillful people. You want people with good character, because they're going into people's homes. You want them to be pleasant. So you know that's probably the biggest challenge, is finding good talent, people who always show up on time, who are willing to do the work, and who are just pleasant.
I love that because you know I do a lot of podcasts and I hear on a regular basis the need for good people. So, your philosophy, I just can tell, is somebody that cares, like just saying that you wanted to help people. I don't think there's a better feeling. I used to know this guy, he wrote this book, Declutter, Detox, and there's another D to it. There's something magical when we get the clutter out of our life and we detox, what would you say, like, how do you work on building your business? Let's just say, and I want to encourage our viewers to share this video with people that want to be in the service business. There's nothing better than being in a service business because you're dealing with people and you get to feel good about how you're taking care of people. But what would you say, like, from a business owner, what do you look for out there when you're trying to recruit team members for your business?
Yeah, well, I'd say the team members have stayed with the company for a very long time are people who I personally knew, who were my friends in the past, because you get to know their character, you get to trust them, you know that this person is a reliable person that, I'd be very glad to have in other people's homes and service their homes. So I'd say look for character a lot more than I look for skill, because skill can be developed,
Hmm.
but character, and that might be a bit more challenging, because habits, they do have a tendency to stay with us very, very effectively, and to be pretty stubborn when we try to change them. So that's probably what I look for the most and when I'm hiring people.
That's awesome. I heard a person share, like, it's better for kids to learn multiple skills and then multiple sports and then pick one once they get better at it, but not just focus on one sport. What do you do? Like, because building a business is hard work. What do you
Yeah.
do to reset or rewind or to just change how you're doing? Because if you all work, no play makes a person boring. So, what do you do to kind of reset?
I'd say what helps me reset is just spending time with the family. And my sister, she lives not too far away from me. So
Hmm.
I often spend time at their place. I have a lot of nephews, I have a niece, and just my parents and my whole family in general. I think when you spend time with them, it doesn't really matter what you do at that point. If you go out to play soccer in the field or some volleyball in the front yard, which we often do, I think it really helps you de-stress. Sometimes they invite me to play games with them, and just really anything. But I think I think one of the most important things in our life is relationships. So when we spend time with others, with people who cherish us and who you cherish, I think it kind of restores your love tank and your emotional tank, and just kind of clears your mind off a lot of things in life.
Love that. You know, I always say that we our body is an asset. Like, we got to take care of it. You're in a physical business where you're doing a lot of things. How do you stay in shape to accept those challenges that you have out there?
Yes, well, working out at the gym is always a must for me.
Hmm.
Back in the day, I used to have back problems, and I tried so many things. I went to chiropractors, I tried hanging on the bar, and so on. And there was only one thing that actually solved that issue for me, is working out. Once I got my core stronger, my back muscles stronger, all that pain just went away eventually.
Mm.
And I meet a lot of people who complain, about a lot of things. And I tell them, I think there's one thing that could solve probably 80% of most people's health issues, is just working out. I
Mm.
heard the story from Warren Buffett that long, long ago, his doctor told him, you have two options, Warren. You could either eat healthy every day of your life, or you could work out, 3 to 4 times a week. And Warren Buffett weighed out the options and chose the latter, to work out. And everybody knows that McDonald's is probably not the healthiest food out there, but Warren Buffett, that's his favorite breakfast, to go out to McDonald's every morning and have his coffee and hash browns or whatever he has. And so I think working out is a very big part, because it's kind of like water. Obviously, I'm not a health nutritionist or a doctor or anybody, but I think the idea is very similar. If water is stale, like in a pond, it turns green and frogs start appearing. And but when it's
Mhm.
flowing down the mountain, it's always active. Your body is moving, releasing toxins. It's nice and fresh. So I think working out is the number one priority for me.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I lived at a facility, and we used to say, movement is medicine. Is keep that body moving, keep it
Yeah,
moving. Whatever it is, walking, working out, you just keep that thing moving. The minute you stop, just like you said, in as a pond that doesn't have a flow gets toxic, gets algae, gets all the things you don't want because it's not moving. So it's a simple process of keeping our body moving. So what would you say, like, as as a service business, I want you to kind of uh, I want you to talk to a 16-year-old Alex. What advice would you give that 16-year-old Alex that you know now that you wish you knew back at 16?
well, I guess there's a lot of advice I'd give myself um, to my 16-year-old self. But I think when it refers to the business aspect, I'd say people buy you before they buy your product or service. You know, if you want to offer anything to people, it always has to be from the heart. It always has to be to improve their lives or to help them out. Because there's a saying that people don't care how much you know, but they do care how much you care. So if you
Mm,
come into somebody's house, you're diligent to make sure you're providing the best service you can. You're careful around their stuff. Um, I think people give a lot more attention to that than if you possibly missed a spot on a window cleaning or something. So that's pretty much my advice: is put people first,
mm.
and then the service will just automatically follow afterwards.
Ooh, I love it. I'm a firm believer in branding and that first impression. I'm seeing you for the first time in your, you know, work outfit, your work attire. When did you decide that that was going to be important to the growth of your business? Because it's absolutely a game changer when you see one person who just shows up with a t-shirt with nothing, like a hat backwards, and then you see a person like yourself who dresses like a professional. What made you want to go that route? I commend you for it.
Yeah, well, the brand name does mean a lot um, in the sales and the service industry. That's one, but I think when you show up nice to people, you smell good, you look good. It's in a way actually a sign of respect to those people, as
Hmm.
if you show up and ripped clothes, shaggy clothes, and maybe you're not smelling so good. It's kind of a sign of disrespect too. So I think looking good is very important just from that aspect.
Ooh, that's so good. What do you like as you look out to 2026? What are you most excited about as a business owner?
As a business owner, I'm just more excited to grow the business and help a lot more people
Mm,
because our home is a very special place for most people. It's where we spend a lot of time. It's where we have special moments like birthdays and holiday celebrations. And a lot of realtors actually call us to clean their windows and to wash houses because they understand that when a person comes to a clean house, it has a psychological impact on them.
mm,
Yes, consciously, we're not going and thinking, okay, I'm going to buy this house just because their windows are clean or because their siding is nice and washed. But unconsciously, it like just kind of touches our soul. When you come, everything looks good, it smells good. You're like, I don't know why, but I kind of like how this feels. So I'm pretty excited about 2026 is improving people's houses, improving their lives, because that's pretty much what we're doing. When you could affect somebody's psychological and emotional state, you're impacting their lives.
yeah, just to that point, my mom passed away this year at 95, and pressure washing and washing the outside of the house. At that age, it wasn't a big priority. But when the realtor came over there and we were getting ready to sell the house, she impressed upon my sisters about the importance of pressure washing, cleaning up, just making the outside look fresh and clean. And the house sold on the first person to visit. It wasn't we were having an open house that Saturday. That person came on Friday and put an offer in. And I'm sure it was because of the way the house was presented. And because I remember going up there, and I would get the broom out and I would take care of the cobwebs like in the foyer and stuff like that. But those kind of things make a significant difference, and we saw it firsthand when you pretty it up, clean it up, make it look just pristine. How people respond to it, and it was amazing that we thought, okay, how long is it going to take? And it took one visit from one couple to respond to, which was a clean house. They staged it too, but they made it look beautiful. So, besides realtors, we always look at referral partners in our business and what we do. Besides realtors, where do you find you get your next best referrals?
Yeah, our next best referrals are from people who had our service and they recommend us to one of their friends or family. That's
Hmm.
probably the best way. But otherwise, it's just marketing on Google and getting your name out there. But
Hmm.
oh yeah, referrals from one person to another are probably our next best hit. So
Awesome. I noticed you had 78 Google reviews. How do you I mean, it's hard to get people to give you reviews. It's just people say they will do it, but they don't, they're busy and they don't get around to it. How were you able to get that many reviews?
yeah, I would say getting a Google review is sometimes a lot more difficult than making a house look good
Mhm.
because most of the people, like you said, they say they will do it, but with our busy lifestyles, it's very easy to forget. And but you know, sometimes you just do such a great job for people that they tell you even before you ask for a Google review that, hey, I'm gonna go on Google and put a review out there for you guys who did such an amazing job. Um, so anytime that happens, which is probably often the case, which happens Um, before, when I was starting off, I tried to really push and ask for Google reviews, but I realized that it's a lot more difficult because people say, "Yeah, sure, you will," and then we will, and you follow up with a text, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll do it later tonight." And so, but it's always great when people tell you by themselves, and it's just human nature. I think sometimes to you could go to Walmart many times and have wonderful experiences, or to Chick-fil-A or wherever, and sometimes when you get only one bad experience, a person thinks, okay, I gotta go on Google and leave a bad review, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh,
But you
yeah.
could have so many great experiences, and it just doesn't really cross our minds to go out there and think, wow, this chicken sandwich is so good. Let me go on Google and leave a good review. Yeah.
What do you think? Do you see any difference doing business in Florida than doing business here in Atlanta? Was there any
Yeah.
like difference in the type of people, their attitudes, they're just the way they live down there? Has there been anything that you have observed?
Yeah, so I lived out in North Miami Beach area, and before before I did pressure washing, I never actually noticed any of these things. But the most biggest differences I noticed between Florida and Georgia are that, number one, most people in Florida, well, North Miami Beach area, or North Miami, and Miami and kind of past more South Miami, they do not have any curbs. It's just
Hmm.
your driveway and your front lawn is even with the road surface. So it was very different because when you wash somebody's driveway, usually you get this huge puddle at the end of the driveway because oftentimes the road itself is actually elevated above the driveway. So we'd have to suck up the water, and
Hmm.
it just takes a lot more time. But another interesting thing is a lot of people out there don't have gutters. So if you do a roof wash, you need extra helpers to always be watering down the plants and all the grass when you're washing the roof because you don't want soap to get on the plants. And but in Georgia, it's much easier because almost everybody has gutters, like
Hmm.
100% of the people, as opposed to only like 10% of the people. So when you're washing a roof in Georgia, you could put a bag in the gutter spout and the downspout, and or direct the water flow wherever you want it. So just simple things like that. It's pretty interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah, and but there are so many differences. Like the best driveways, in my opinion, are the concrete driveways. In Florida, you just encounter so many different kinds, from bricks to painted clay to painted concrete to asphalt, and it kind of throws you off a bit, you know. But it's way easier when you just know that almost every house has concrete, and you're just gonna do the same exact thing because
Hmm.
concrete is pretty easy to clean as opposed to some painted clay.
What would you say, like, for somebody starting out growing their business? What in a service business? Let's stay in service. What advice would you give them now that you're much further into that growth of a business? What advice would you give a new business owner starting out?
Yeah, it really depends on where they're at in life, where they're at financially. I'd say if they're very low financially, then you should probably take it easier and don't like abandon your job right away. You know, your 9 to 5 job, and just go into debt and loan and start buying and loans start buying pressure washers. And because usually the first year of any business is the most difficult one,
Hmm.
and most of the time businesses don't even make a profit in their first year because of all the expenses and all the marketing. So they're a lot more expensive than people realize, like even buying hats and shirts and pamphlets and business cards and making a website. Those are all minor expenses that add up very, very quickly.
Hmm.
So, you know, if you're kind of a little tighter on the budget, I'll just say take it easier. You know, maybe start doing some work for your family, for your friends, and, you know, take it one step at a time. If you have a good amount of money reserved and you see a good way to go, and, you know, then might as well just go all in. Go big or go home. Get the best pressure washers. Get, you know, everything you need to get the jobs done because it makes a very big difference. Um, and you know, yeah, just keep pushing. I think it's possible in the world we live in the country we're in, for everybody to succeed if they just put in a lot of
I
effort to doing
agree.
it.
Yeah, there's nothing shy. I mean, there's nothing, no shortcuts. It's hard work. It's, it's constantly because you're tested when you're working for yourself. You're tested every day because if you don't add value, the cash flow doesn't come in. So it is a true test when somebody jumps out there on their own to what kind of value they can, deliver in the marketplace. I want to be respectful of your time because I know that is something that we always protect as business owners. So tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. You could just contact me with the number on the screen, 470-925-0826, or you could go visit our website, which is sunshine pressure washing and window cleaning.com. And absolutely, we'd love to help you out and take care of your home.
Awesome. I want to encourage our viewers, if you know realtors that need a good person to be part of their team, share this video with them. Let them know about Alex and his company. And so as we wind down, what would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from our podcast this morning?
Yeah, one thing, you know, I guess there could be a. It really depends who the viewer is. Are you a business owner? Are you a house owner trying to get your house washed? But the one thing is, just regardless what side you're on, be a good person, and look for the good people, because that will take you far. If people see your heart and see that you're an honest person, that you're a person of integrity, I think you'll get you much farther than if you're just a sales guy. So I think that's probably the biggest thing anybody could take from this interview.
Well, that's great advice. Alex, I thank you for taking the time to be
Yeah,
with
thank
us in
you,
our
Pete.
community. We really appreciate you sharing your insights, your journey, and your stories. So thank you so much for being here.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Pete, for